Chapter 1. First Contact. The research facility on Raxafor buzzed with the controlled chaos typical of a newly established base. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows and bathing the landscape in an eerie twilight. Dr. David Harris, a linguist from Earth, was one of the last to leave the lab. His mind was racing with data and deciphered scripts, but the serene silence outside beckoned for a moment of peace. As David strolled through the perimeter of the base, he adjusted the recording device in his pocket, a habit born from his eagerness to capture every alien sound for analysis. The air was crisp, the sky a tapestry of stars unfamiliar and exciting. "It's incredible, isn't it?" remarked a voice beside him. Dr. John Martinez, a biologist and David's roommate, had approached silently, sharing the view. David nodded, his gaze still fixed on the stars. "Every night, it feels like we're part of something monumental." John laughed softly. "We are, in a way. Just not in the hustle of our daily grind." Their conversation drifted to the peculiarities of alien flora and fauna John had encountered that day, when suddenly a distant melody floated through the air. It was unlike anything David had ever heard, a complex harmony that seemed to resonate with the very air around them. "Did you hear that?" David asked, his professional curiosity piqued. John, with an intrigued smile, replied, "How could I not? Let's find out what it is." Together they followed the sound, treading lightly over the rough, unfamiliar terrain. The melody grew clearer, more structured, a siren song guiding them deeper into an unexplored thicket just beyond the base. After several minutes, they came upon a clearing bathed in moonlight. At its center stood a figure, unlike any being they had encountered before. She had iridescent skin that reflected the moonlight in shimmering waves, and her eyes glowed softly in the dim light. The source of the melody was apparent now. It flowed from her, an organic expression of her being. David stepped forward, his voice gentle. "Hello, I'm David, and this is John. We didn't mean to intrude." The figure paused, her melody halting abruptly. She studied them, her head tilted in curiosity, then responded in a series of harmonious tones that David couldn't decipher but felt profoundly peaceful. "Is she singing?" John whispered, his scientific mind racing with questions. David slowly removed his recorder, holding it out as a gesture of peace and explanation. "We record sounds to learn," he explained, mimicking the act of recording and then playing back some earlier sounds from their planet. The alien watched and listened, her expression turning from wary to intrigued. Then, with a tentative step forward, she resumed her song, this time directing it clearly towards them. John, ever the biologist, noted quietly, "Her vocal range is incredible. This must be her way of communicating." David nodded, enraptured by the complexity of her music. He tried to replicate a few of the simpler tones. The alien paused, then adjusted her melody slightly, as if correcting him. Laughing in amazement, David tried again, managing a closer approximation. The alien's mouth curved in what could only be a smile. As the night grew deeper, the three beings shared sounds and music, an impromptu cultural exchange under the alien stars. David felt a profound connection, a bridge being formed not with words but with melodies, universal in their appeal and as old as time itself. "We should head back," John finally said, though he looked reluctant to leave. "Yes, but we'll come back tomorrow," David promised, already planning how to introduce more of their team to this remarkable being. As they walked back to the base, the melody lingered in the air, a promise of new friendships and incredible discoveries to come. Chapter 2. The Language of Music. The following day at the research facility on Raxafor began with an unusual buzz, fueled by David and John's recount of last night's encounter. Dr. Eric Benson, the head of the team and a seasoned xenolinguist, was particularly intrigued. "Music as a means of communication, you say?" Eric mused as he sipped his morning coffee, peering curiously at David. Yes, it's not just music. It felt intentional, communicative, David responded, his enthusiasm evident. Sounds fascinating and worth exploring, Eric concluded, setting his cup down with resolve. Let's all go today. See if we can establish a pattern or even a basic form of dialogue. By late afternoon, David, John, and Eric were trekking back to the clearing, equipped with various recording devices and sensors. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, the air vibrating with a silent promise of the unknown. As they approached the clearing, the alien, Mela, as David had started to think of her, was already there, almost as if she had been expecting them. Her song began softly, more subdued than the night before, yet every bit as captivating. "Hello again," David greeted warmly, the others nodding their greetings. "We brought more friends to listen to your song." Mela's melody changed, notes rising in pitch and tempo, an audible expression of what might have been joy or perhaps just acknowledgement. Eric, ever the scientist, started his recorder, then attempted to mimic a few of the simpler tunes he'd been briefed on. His attempts were awkward, but Mela responded, her song shaping the sounds, guiding him. John chuckled. "I think she's teaching you, Eric." "Seems like it," Eric laughed, then continued, "Could you try that again, Mela?" The session progressed with Mela singing a series of complex sounds that varied in pitch and length. David and John joined in, trying to replicate the sounds. Mela corrected them patiently, her song gentle, encouraging. After several iterations, a pattern began to emerge. Mela would sing a note and pause, allowing them to echo it. With each repetition, their renditions improved, and Mela's tones became more elaborate. "This is extraordinary," Eric noted, his voice full of wonder. "It's like she's building a bridge with her music." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the clearing, David tried a new approach. He played a simple melody from an Earth song on his portable music player. Mela listened intently, then responded with a composition of her own that mimicked the rhythm and structure but infused with her unique tones. "Music might truly be the universal language," John said, deeply moved by the exchange. Mela's song took on a rhythmic pulse that matched the beating of their hearts, a sound that resonated deeply within each of them. It was a moment of profound connection, transcending species and worlds. "We should document this. Every session, every interaction," Eric suggested, his mind racing with the possibilities. "This could change how we approach interspecies communication." The group agreed, and as they packed up their equipment, David lingered for a moment longer, sharing a silent farewell with Mela. Her song slowed, notes lingering in the air like a tender caress. Back at the base, the team gathered around a makeshift table, overflowing with notes and recordings. "We're on the verge of something groundbreaking," Eric stated, a broad smile spreading across his face. Everyone nodded in agreement, their minds alive with possibilities. They were no longer just researchers on a distant planet. They were pioneers on the cusp of uncovering a new form of dialogue, one that spoke directly to the heart through the universal medium of music. Chapter 3: Melodic Understanding. The next few days at the HFY research facility were marked by a flurry of excitement and intense focus. Driven by the breakthroughs in communication through music with Mela, the team, led by David, Eric, and John, dedicated themselves to deepening this novel form of interaction. "Let's structure our sessions more systematically," Eric suggested during their morning meeting. "We should introduce specific sounds from our language and see if Mela can replicate or respond to them." David nodded in agreement. "And I propose we try not just replicating sounds, but also associating them with objects or concepts, like showing her an apple while playing its name in a tune." John, always eager to integrate more scientific methods, added, "I'll monitor her reactions on the biosensors." We might capture physiological changes that occur when she understands or struggles. With their plan set, the trio, along with two more team members, Dr. Liam Turner and Dr. Felix Chen, who specialized in xenobiology and cultural anthropology respectively, set off to the now familiar clearing. Mela was there, her luminous skin glowing under the afternoon sun, her posture open and welcoming as the team approached. "Good to see you, Mela," David greeted, the group setting up their equipment around the clearing's edge. Mela's response was a bright, melodious flow, more intricate than before, as if she too was excited about the day's potential. Eric started the session by holding up a picture of a star, and then playing a tune they had assigned to the word star. Mela listened intently, then, to their amazement, replicated the melody perfectly and pointed up at the sky. "Fantastic!" exclaimed Felix, making notes vigorously. "She's associating sounds with meanings." Encouraged, Liam brought out a model of their ship and associated it with another tune. Mela's attempt to echo it was slightly off this time, but after a few tries, her rendition improved. As the afternoon wore on, the team introduced more objects and concepts, each accompanied by specific melodies. Mela's ability to understand and communicate through these musical phrases was astonishing, and each successful exchange was met with cheers and applause from the team. During a short break, John commented, "It's not just learning. It's like we're actually conversing with her now." David, reflecting on John's words, added, "It's more than scientific interaction. This feels personal, like we're truly getting to know her." As the sun began to set, Eric proposed a new test. "Let's try something abstract. What about emotions?" He played different tunes they had predetermined for happiness, sadness, and curiosity. Mela's reactions were profound. Her melodies became expressive, the tones capturing the essence of each emotion. When the tune for sadness played, her notes turned slow and minor, a universal sign of melancholy. Felix, observing closely, noted, "Her emotional range is incredible. She's not just mimicking, she's expressing." As they packed up to leave, Mela initiated a new melody, one that none of them had heard before. It was complex and beautiful, filled with what seemed like gratitude and joy. They all stopped to listen, deeply moved. "That was beautiful," Liam said softly, his voice full of wonder. "Yes," David agreed. "She's not just learning our language. She's sharing hers." On the walk back to the base, the team was quieter than usual, each member lost in thought about the day's discoveries. They had started this project hoping to learn about an alien species, but they were finding so much more, a shared language of music that spoke to every heart, transcending worlds. Back at the base, as they debriefed, Eric summed up the day's progress. "We're not just teaching or learning here. We're building bridges. Let's keep pushing these boundaries." Nods of agreement echoed around the room, the team invigorated by the possibilities that lay ahead. They were on the verge of not only scientific discovery, but also forging a deep, meaningful connection with another sentient being through the universal language of music. Chapter 4. Harmonic Convergence. The local festival celebrating the planet's seasonal equinox provided the perfect backdrop for the next step in human-alien interaction. The Raxafor research team decided it was an opportune moment to introduce Mela to a broader aspect of human culture, music integrated with social celebration. David and Eric walked through the bustling festival grounds early in the morning to set up their designated area, discussing the plan. "Do you think she'll be overwhelmed by all this?" David asked, gesturing at the colorful decorations and stages being adorned with lights and fabrics. "It's possible," Eric conceded, placing a hand on his shoulder. "But remember, every interaction so far has shown she's curious and adaptable. Just keep things slow, and let her take the lead." John, carrying a box of equipment, joined them. "I've brought everything from xylophones to synthesizers." It'll be interesting to see which ones she gravitates towards. As the festival began, the air filled with a sense of exotic foods and the sounds of different musical performances. The team gathered at their setup, nervously anticipating Mela's arrival. She appeared just as the first local band took the stage, her iridescent skin catching the light of the setting sun, creating a natural glow around her. David waved, smiling broadly. "Mela, over here." She approached, her melody light and playful, clearly expressing her excitement. As she reached the group, her eyes widened at the array of instruments displayed before her. "What do you think?" John asked, playing a few notes on the keyboard to draw her attention. Mela's response was immediate. She reached out to touch the keys gently, her own melody mingling with the electronic tones. Her fascination was evident as she experimented with different sounds, creating a blend of her alien notes and the synthesizer's outputs. Liam and Felix, who had been mingling with the crowd, came back with beverages and reports of growing interest among the festival goers. "There's quite a buzz about what we're doing here. People are curious about Mela," Liam shared, handing out drinks. "Let's give them something to really talk about," Felix suggested, grinning. "Mela, would you like to try something fun?" With David translating, Mela nodded enthusiastically. Felix led her to a steel drum, explaining its Caribbean origins. As she tentatively struck the drum, the sound delighted her, and she quickly developed a rhythm, blending it with her own melodic vocalizations. The crowd around them grew, drawn by the unusual music. Eric, seizing the moment, explained to the onlookers what was happening. "What you're witnessing is the first real-time musical collaboration between a human and an alien species. Each note she plays is part of an ongoing dialogue, a celebration not just of our culture but of shared understanding and joy." The highlight came when Mela, feeling more confident, motioned to David to join her. Together they performed a duet, her singing blending with his improvised keyboard playing. The melody was mesmerizing, drawing cheers and applause from the crowd. As the performance concluded, John turned to the others, his eyes bright with excitement. "Did you see that?" It was like she was truly feeling the music, not just playing it. "Yeah," David agreed, looking over at Mela, who was interacting with some of the festival goers, her song light and joyful. "She's not just learning about us, she's becoming a part of us." The day ended with the team and Mela watching the festival's closing fireworks, the night sky ablaze with colors. As the last firework faded, Mela hummed a tune that matched the booming echoes, a sound of contentment and belonging. Back at their base, the team gathered around a small bonfire, reflecting on the day. "Today was a success on so many levels," Eric began, his voice thoughtful. "Not only did we introduce Mela to a wider range of our culture, but we also saw her joy in sharing hers with us. It's more than scientific discovery now," John added, looking at the stars. "It's cultural exchange, real interaction. And it's just the beginning." As the fire crackled, the team sat in companionable silence, each member aware that they were part of something truly groundbreaking, a symphony of human and alien friendship, played out under the stars of Raxafor. Chapter 5. Crescendo of Hearts. The days following the festival saw a deepening of the bond between the Raxafor research team and Mela. The aliens' interest in human culture, especially music, had blossomed, mirroring her increasing comfort with the team. David, in particular, felt a profound connection developing between them, a blend of friendship and something more delicate. Late one evening, David invited Mela to the facility's common area, where he had set up a small, intimate listening session with various recordings of Earth music ranging from classical to modern jazz. "Mela, these are some of my favorite pieces," David shared, his voice soft in the dim light. "Music can convey feelings and stories. I'm curious to see how you feel about them." Mela nodded, her luminous eyes reflecting her eagerness. As the first notes of a gentle piano sonata filled the room, her attention was unwavering. She seemed to absorb every note, her own humming softly complementing the melody, creating a dialogue between the music and her responses. The session continued with a shift to jazz, the complex layers of the music challenging even David's understanding. Yet, Mailer's adaptation was swift, her vocalizations matching the unpredictable rhythms and improvisations of the jazz ensemble. "It's amazing how you pick this up," David remarked, impressed. "Do you feel the music like we do? Does it stir emotions within you?" Mailer's melody changed, the notes turning soft and warm, echoing the emotional depth of the jazz. It was clear she was not just mimicking, she was feeling. As the evening grew late, David decided to play something personal, a recording of his own heartbeat, amplified and set to a rhythmic beat. "This is another type of music," he explained, "the sound of a human heart." Mailer listened intently, her head tilted. As the heartbeat played, she moved closer to David, her expression one of curiosity and affection. Then she began to sing, a melody so pure and aligned with the rhythm of the heartbeat that it seemed like a harmonious blend of human and alien essence. The connection in that moment was palpable. David reached out, tentatively taking her hand. Mailer did not pull away. Instead, her skin shimmered with a glow that seemed to pulse in time with the heartbeat. "Your music. Your heart. It's beautiful," David found himself saying, the words more true than any he had spoken before. Mailer responded with a melody that swirled around them, enveloping them in a musical embrace. Slowly, they drew closer, their faces inches apart. David could feel the warmth of her breath, her gentle hum vibrating through him. They kissed, a soft, exploratory kiss that spoke of mutual respect and burgeoning love. The kiss deepened, driven by the rhythm of the heartbeat still playing in the background, their touches gentle but filled with emotion. As they pulled apart, the air was thick with a melody of warmth and mutual understanding. "I never thought," David started, but found he didn't have the words. Mailer's song filled the silence, her notes tender and reassuring. They spent the rest of the evening in quiet companionship, listening to the music, each note a building block in the bridge between their hearts. Later, as David walked Mailer back to her dwelling under the starlit sky, he felt a profound sense of peace. The music had not just brought them together. It had opened a pathway to a deeper connection, one that transcended words and even worlds. Back in his room, David replayed the evening in his mind, each memory accompanied by the soft melody of Mailer's song. It was clear that their relationship had transformed, guided by the universal language of music and the undeniable rhythm of the human heart. Chapter 6. The Alien's Song. David's relationship with Mailer had entered a new phase, marked by a deeper intimacy and understanding that transcended their initial interactions. As their trust grew, Mailer invited David to visit her home planet, a gesture of significant importance. David accepted, curious and excited about the opportunity to immerse himself further into her world and culture. Accompanied by Eric and John, who were eager to support their colleague and friend, David prepared for the journey. The team gathered their equipment, hoping to document their experiences for further study and shared understanding. As their spacecraft approached Mailer's planet, David peered out the window, struck by the beauty of the alien world. The planet was awash with vibrant colors, and vast landscapes that seemed to pulse with life. "Look at that," John said, pointing towards towering structures that resembled both trees and musical instruments. "Everything here seems designed to resonate." Mailer met them at the landing site, her joy evident in her song, which now they could all understand better. "Welcome to my home," her melody conveyed, rich with harmonics that the translation devices rendered into words. The first stop was a large gathering area, where Mailer introduced them to her people. They were welcomed with open arms and harmonious songs, each member of her species communicating in melodies. David felt overwhelmed but deeply moved by the warmth of their reception. "These are my friends from Earth," Mela sang to her people, introducing David, Eric, and John. The aliens responded with a chorus of welcoming tunes, each note weaving around them, creating a tapestry of greeting and acceptance. Mela took them on a tour, explaining their culture and history through song. The architecture, the communal spaces, even their technology, all were integrated with music at its core. "It's not just communication for them," Eric observed, deeply impressed. "It's a way of life. Everything here is connected through music." They were shown a library of sorts, where instead of books, there were intricate carvings that, when touched, emitted musical notes. Mela demonstrated, touching one of the carvings, unleashing a melody that told a historical tale of her people. David, moved by the beauty and complexity of the story, responded with a simple melody he had learned, a thank you in her language. Mela beamed, her skin shimmering more brightly, pleased with his progress. As the day turned to evening, they were invited to a ceremonial event. It was an awe-inspiring experience, with Mela's people performing orchestral pieces that narrated their civilization's milestones and struggles. David, Eric, and John, each in their own way, felt a profound connection to these alien lives, so different yet so similar in their expression of culture and identity. Later, sitting with Mela under a sky lit by 3 moons, David shared his feelings about the day. "I've never felt anything like this. Your world, your music, it's opened my eyes to how narrow our view from Earth can be." Mela's song in response was gentle, affectionate. "You bring us new melodies, new rhythms. You change our music just as we change yours." The visit concluded with an exchange of gifts. Mela presented David, Eric, and John with small devices that could play some of their planet's most important melodies. In return, David gave Mela a recording of Earth's music, from classical to modern, a cultural exchange that felt deeply personal. As they prepared to leave, John summed up the experience. "We came here thinking about what we could learn, but I feel like we've gained so much more. It's like we're part of a larger symphony now." The journey back to Earth was quiet, each man lost in thought, the echoes of alien melodies playing softly in the background, a reminder of the universal language of music that now bound 2 very different civilizations together. Chapter 7. The Human's Heartbeat. As the spacecraft journeyed back to Earth, David sat in the observation deck, lost in thought, replaying the melodies and experiences of Mela's planet. Beside him, Eric was busy at his console, analyzing the recordings they had made, a look of deep concentration on his face. John joined them, carrying a steaming cup of coffee in each hand. "Here, I thought you might need this," he said, handing a cup to David. "Thanks, John. I was just thinking about how Mela's world seemed to sing to us, every part of it," David mused, taking a sip of the hot drink. "It's fascinating," Eric chimed in, pausing his work. "Their culture is built around musical communication more deeply than we first realized. It's not just a language. It's their history, their emotions, their very identity." "I've been wondering," John started, sitting down next to them, "how do we integrate this experience into our own work back on Earth? What do we bring back that changes us, or changes how we see our world?" David leaned back, considering John's words. "I think it starts with understanding that communication isn't just about words. It's about connection, emotion. Mela and her people taught us that music might be a more universal language than we ever imagined." The conversation drifted to the technical aspects of their findings, discussing how they might present their discoveries to the wider scientific community. As they talked, David began to sketch out ideas on a digital pad, his mind alight with possibilities. "We need to show the emotional component, not just the data," David suggested. "Maybe start with the recording of Mela's greeting, then our musical responses. Show the progression of our communication. That could work, Eric agreed. It's a narrative, not just research. It tells a story. The discussion was interrupted by a soft alert from the spacecraft's communication system. They were nearing Earth, the familiar blue of the planet coming into view. As they prepared for re-entry, David found himself feeling a mix of excitement and melancholy. Mailer had given him a recording before he left, a new song composed just for him, inspired by the rhythm of his heartbeat. He decided to play it over the ship's audio system. The melody filled the cabin, complex and beautiful. It was a musical representation of his heartbeat, but woven through it were the sounds of Mailer's world, a fusion that spoke of their shared experiences and emotions. "It's incredible," John said quietly, listening intently. "It's like she's here with us." Eric nodded, his eyes reflective. "It's a reminder of what we've experienced. This isn't just a scientific expedition. It's a personal journey too." As the spacecraft touched down on Earth, the song ended, leaving a lingering note that seemed to resonate through the cabin. They gathered their belongings, each man changed in his own way by the journey. Stepping out onto the tarmac, David felt the solid earth beneath his feet, but the melody of Mailer's song still played in his mind. He knew he would return to Mailer's world, but for now, there was much to be done here, much to share and learn. The trio headed towards the welcoming committee, ready to share their findings and experiences. David, with a final look back at the stars, felt a deep connection to the universe, a connection that was now forever underscored by the alien song and the human's heartbeat. Chapter 8. Symphony of Two Worlds. Back on Earth, the HFY research team was invited to present their groundbreaking findings at an international symposium on interstellar communication. David, Eric, and John spent weeks preparing, eager to share not just the data but the profound impact of their experiences. In a large conference room filled with scientists, linguists, and diplomats from around the world, the team set up their presentation. The stage was equipped with speakers to play the recordings they had made, and screens to display translations and analyses. As the audience settled, Eric took the lead, introducing the team and the purpose of their mission. "We embarked on this journey to understand and document. What we found was a deeper connection through the universal language of music," he began, his voice clear and steady. David was next. He walked to the podium with a mix of nervousness and excitement. "Today, we share with you a narrative of discovery," he said, clicking to a slide showing Mailer and her environment. "This is Mailer, a being from a planet where music isn't just art, it's the cornerstone of communication." The lights dimmed as David played Mailer's greeting, the melody filling the room, capturing the audience's attention with its complexity and beauty. He explained their initial challenges and breakthroughs, each point illustrated with audio clips and videos of their interactions. John followed, discussing the technical aspects of their communication efforts. "We used biosensors to capture the physiological responses to musical interaction, which helped us understand the emotional impacts of different melodies," he detailed, showing graphs and data on the screen. The presentation culminated with the symphony they had composed together with Mailer, a fusion of human and alien musical elements. This piece, which we call The Alien Song and the Human's Heartbeat, symbolizes the harmony we achieved. David introduced the final part of their presentation. As the symphony played, the room was filled with a blend of Earth instruments and alien vocals, a moving testament to the power of music to cross boundaries and cultures. The audience was visibly moved, many nodding in appreciation, some wiping away tears. After the presentation, the floor was opened for questions. A diplomat from Brazil stood up, her question thoughtful. Could this approach to communication help in diplomatic efforts with other alien species? Absolutely, Eric responded. What we've learned is that looking for commonalities, like music, can provide a foundation for dialogue where traditional language barriers exist. A young linguist from Japan asked, "Do you plan to continue this research? Will there be more exchanges?" David answered, "Yes, we are in the early stages of planning a return mission. We believe this is just the beginning of what could be a vast area of study." As the session concluded, the team received a standing ovation. The impact of their work was clear, sparking conversations among attendees about the potential for music as a tool in interstellar communication and understanding. Later, at a private reception, David stood with his team, discussing future collaborations with other researchers. "Today went well," he mused, looking around at the excited faces. "It did," John agreed. "Seems like we're not the only ones who believe in the power of music." As the evening drew to a close, David stepped outside for a moment of quiet. He looked up at the stars, thinking of Mela and her world. The melody of the alien song and the human's heartbeat played softly in his mind, a reminder of the invisible threads connecting all beings in the vast universe. Feeling a sense of accomplishment and anticipation for the future, David returned inside, ready to continue the work that had only just begun. The Symphony of Two Worlds was not just a piece of music, but a beacon for future explorations and connections across the cosmos.